Hello, 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 Tampa Bay listeners and beyond. You've got everything PEO, Money Talk 1010 a.m. I'm Evan Collart, and this is when you usually would hear, and Lionel Francis, not in the building with us. We're certainly going to miss the big guy today, but we've got a great show in store for our listeners. And it's, you know what, Warren, it's a beautiful day in Tampa Bay. It's nothing better to do than a good radio show, in my opinion.
Totally beautiful day, and it's been a lot of them lately, hasn't it?
It has. It has. We very quickly, the beautiful weather is going to evaporate, and the thick of the heat will be here. But like anything, that we got to keep turning that page, and the show must go on. So in studio today, Warren Spiwak. He's a global alliance manager with Safeguard Global. Manages many of Safeguard's referral partnerships really all over the world. They help businesses recruit, hire, onboard, and pay employees in over 179 countries. And I thought it was a real good fit for the show. We talk about all the time how PEOs can help your business and, the employer of record shift and all that liability shift, what that can do for our business owners in the Tampa Bay area and beyond. And I think really in this post-pandemic era, where so many businesses have gone home-based. That's really what the pandemic proved, in my opinion, is that you can work from home, you can be efficient, and, more than ever now we're having, I've got, 6 here in this state, 6 here in that state, and 1 in Germany, and 1 in, Europe somewhere, and, Safeguard Global is really a good, fit for solving that puzzle, and that's why we've brought Warren in today. And really look forward to kind of chopping it up with you over the next hour, my friend.
For sure, definitely. And I know you mentioned you kicked this thing off with some different news parts to this. I'm very excited to see that. And then, we've got quite a few things to cover.
Absolutely. We always, executive producer Aaron Cornicker always does some digging for us each week, and we like to really kind of hit on anything relevant in this space, whether it's PEO, insurance, all of the above. Several weeks over the last year has been spent highlighting, kind of illegal workers. We've been flooded with it with kind of post-Hurricane Ian and everyone coming to the state and the pop-ups and not getting properly licensed and not doing their due diligence. And this one really stuck out to me this week. We've got a 35-year-old woman in Apopka. Was just sentenced to 3 years behind bars for hiring undocumented aliens and really defrauding the federal government out of millions of payroll taxes. Now, this company had claimed that it supplied services and labor for various contractors and subs, and they were required to obviously secure and maintain adequate workers' comp, in order to comply with Florida law. In total, Ms. Velasquez was responsible for approximately $1.79 million in unpaid taxes. I mean, this must have been quite an operation here. We're not talking about 2 or 3 illegals under the table. Really, she had received and cashed more than $7 million in checks over various, construction projects, ultimately cashing these checks to pay these undocumented workers under the table. The government is literally estimating the losses to those insurers was nearly $750,000 in unpaid insurance premium. It just blows my mind, Warren. Like I said, I'm not naive. I've been selling and providing workers' comp in Florida now for over 21 years, and especially in the Florida market, in the Southeast U.S. market, illegal aliens, undocumented aliens is kind of part of the game. It's very often where a PEO may come up and do a site visit and or even the state, they have their own, workers' comp agents that kind of comb the sites themselves, and they'll have 10 or 15 on the employee, roster for the PEO and 1 or 2 that aren't. But this is an operation that has scaled to depths that it almost just seems nuts. How you think you could get away with it. $7 million in payroll, undocumented, tax-free. These numbers are tripping IRS bills all the time. I believe it's any transaction over $10,000, the IRS gets an alert. So
I can't help even just thinking of the people who are doing it right. I mean, look at the investment they're making into their community, the families that they're helping, and you contrast that with there's organizations out there that are contributing nothing really to where they live and the towns. I mean, one of the things that I think about all the time is how important small business is for the community.
right? They thrive on it,
Right.
right? I mean, we're getting in this age where the corporate conglomerates are taking over. Even in the PEO space, there's a ton of acquisition going on, and we're seeing that with a lot of industries. I read this thing just the other day. Doctors' offices, we're literally getting to the point where nearly 7 out of 10 doctors' offices are no longer private practice, and they're conglomerately owned by these massive medical organizations. But that small business owner is still really the network and the fabric for a lot of these towns. And I'm glad that they're cracking down on this. I always go about it like, hey, why should XYZ business owner have to pay and do it right, and you're not?
Right.
Okay, especially to an operation of this size. And they are getting a little more stringent. Literally, Ms. Velasquez had to forfeit nearly $600,000 in liquidity, had to liquidate 3 properties that she had in Polk County, and it says they're still going after multiple conspirators that were helping her along the way.
Wow. And then not to mention the fact that the workers themselves are not getting a fair deal. I mean, yes, they might be undocumented, but they're important too, right? So there's like, speaking of insurance and potential work injury, you want to make sure things are on the up and up, right? I mean, you think you would.
You need to. The reality is, I don't care if that employee is saying, hey, Mr. Business Owner, hey, Mrs. Business Owner, can you not take taxes out? I'm struggling. I'm helping, raise a grandchild. I mean, whatever that moment is, where you walk that plank and decide to not do it the correct way. I mean, that's exactly it. You're in Las Vegas now. You're rolling the dice at the craps table. I literally had this 6 or 7 years ago. The county commissioner in Arcadia, his name was Buddy, and his wife had a Medicaid transport business. And her best friend had just gotten custody of a grandchild and was, kind of falling on tough times and asked to, not have taxes taken out of her check. Can you please 1099 me? It was within just a few months that unfortunately she got T-boned at a red light and had a catastrophic claim. And of course, when Morgan & Morgan gets in there and they start to peel that onion, I know it's your friend, and she may or may not have been doing you that favor, but now you need coverage, you need benefits, you need financial assistance, and that business owner is still liable. So it just, even when that employee comes to you and begs for this, you have to understand the liability that you're taking on as a business owner. If these people get hurt, and they do, I don't care how safe you are, how much training you do, how much time you spend going over OSHA regulations, and employee negligence does not negate benefit. If you didn't follow protocol, they still should have these rights of coverage, and you're ultimately taking that liability on directly. It's big business. I mean, $7 million in payroll. I can only imagine this must have been hundreds of employees out there, every one of them. But we're at this really weird catch-22. It's kind of a crossroad, and we're not a political show. We know we just followed Schnitt. That was the political 3-hour show before us. But we do have an administration, right, that's inviting this undocumented worker in and is doing their best to flood the government, or the states with it. And this path is going to happen more and more now. I mean, they're everywhere. They can't sleep in the alleys forever. No pun intended here. I'm not trying to sound any certain way about it, but I think every business owner is now faced with, should I take that liability on? What's that look like? Who's going to find out, and how does it work? And, we're going to be hearing a lot more of this stuff. It's no longer just, having a dishwasher in the back, for a few $100s. It wasn't but just a few months ago that sheriff on the job site down in Tampa, the FDOT job, got beheaded. And literally after the accident, the person jumped off the front end loader, ran off into the bushes, and that ended up being an undocumented worker as well.
Wow.
So, I mean, not trained properly, not having coverage properly. The federal government's getting cheated out of all these receivables as far as taxes that everyone else has to pay and do the right way. And now we're endangering others in a big way. So I'm glad this Apopka woman, has come to justice. 3 years behind bars, honestly, almost sounds, whether it's I don't know if you'd consider this a white collar,
Well, something that I can't help but think about is that I don't know if this is the same story that you're speaking of, but the other thing is that the person who is driving the unit that caused the harm, I forget exactly what story this was, but it was here. It's like that undocumented worker was so afraid of being caught, almost because think of the consequence to their family and to everyone else that they're involved with, including the business owner. and that if everything was on the up and up, how as bad as it is, at least you could stay there, stay on scene, and you would know that all the X's would be crossed, right? And very tough. That was a really tough story to hear about.
It was brutal. And in the end, a couple of the employees ended up hiding him in the woods for a few hours.
Yeah.
And so multiple people took on liability in saying, hey, man, let's
Yeah.
go this way. Let me do what I can. It's tough. But the business owners have to know they're walking that plank. So just having this article this week and seeing it, the fraud to this scale, it made us dig up another article. And it was really, we don't have to spend too much time into this. I really want to get into a lot with you today, Warren, but it was an article really just to avoid the common misconceptions about workers' comp. And I think a big one, this is a huge tie-in for what the PEO can do for the business model, what Safeguard Global does for these folks all over the world, really. Different states, different requirements, right?
Mhm.
Not every state. First of all, there's 4 monopolistic states, which means they manage the workers' comp kind of out of a state fund. And when I got into this business 20 years ago, there was 11 monopolistic states. Now that's whittled down to just 4. So those 4 are on a totally separate scale than any other state. But that said, even, there's NCCI states. That's our National Council on Compensation Insurance. That's kind of our governing body that dictates codes and, what the codes cost each year from a rate standpoint. Not every state is governed by NCCI. Not every state has the same state unemployment tax thresholds. What they consider overtime. I mean, obviously overtime is 40 hours, but some look at it at 32. I mean, there's just all kinds of little variances within all these states. And that's why having a PEO or an employment of record shift model, helping you through this is only a win-win. It really is. Another kind of big misconception I saw in this article, employers that are new to workers' comp often don't understand that it's a no-fault nature of coverage. We just talked about this a moment ago. Being a bonehead or breaking company protocol does not negate your benefit. No matter how much training you do, no matter how on the job, pre-hire, screening, all of the above, if they break protocol, we just had one the other day. I think it was Aaron in our office where 2 folks put a ladder on top of another ladder. Of course, he fell. It was a major injury.
And there's no stupidity clause, right?
No
Exclusion.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting because that's spot on. It's interesting to see that if you're reporting your payroll, you're reporting your class codes, you have coverage.
Absolutely. Well, we've only got about a minute and a half before break. I want to at least blow through this. So I think a lot of employers think that if you fail a post-accident drug test, that's automatically going to lead to a claim denial, and that is not the case. Another nice buffer about when you're with the PEO, because obviously everybody's operating in a drug-free workplace in a PEO. But if you have a standard market policy and you're not doing random testing or screening, then ultimately you don't have that clause for the instant denial. Pre-existing conditions. Although if you got injured at another job, that carrier, yes, they may be married to that claim. But if there's proof that this new accident really disrupted that other injury to a level that a new claim can get created, there is a way that it does get covered with the new carrier. So another big misconception is that if 2 employees have a fist fight at work, neither can be successful in pursuing workers' comp. That is not true. And lastly, if a injured worker gets hurt at work while not performing their main duties, right? And kind of like the bonehead clause, you can have a slip and fall at work. We just looked at one today where they've only had 1 claim in 3 years. They were getting in the truck out front, slipped out of it, sprained the wrist, worked out to end up needing surgery, $35,000 claim.
Wow.
So it's just the caveats of workers' comp. Well, we've got tons. Hello, we are back. You've got everything PEO on Money Talk 1010 a.m. In studio today, Warren Spiwak, a Global Alliance Manager with Safeguard Global, manages really their referral partners all over the world. Safeguard, if you're not familiar with it, helps businesses recruit, hire, onboard, and pay employees in over 179 countries. It's a great fit for the show and our topic for the day. But before we get into all that, Warren, I know that you created your own agency called Policy League, which was a fast-paced independent agency, which you recently sold in 2018. But I think this conversation usually starts with, you got a ton of background insurance that's kind of bled your way into the
Hmm.
PEO space. Tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I mean, so I think kind of like you, before I even start off with that, I'd say I do want to take a moment and like notice something about you guys and what you're doing at PEO Advisors is that we've only met twice, right? And like you, like one of the things that I noticed was I kind of heard about you guys through NAPIO, and being that I live in a town kind of close to where your office is, I walked in, it might have been like a week before the holidays last year. And you guys were there, right? Like you're grinding it out, you're getting stuff done for your clients. And so my career was very much that way, and it still is today. Where I land is with my insurance background, and then me working with entrepreneurs ever since I started in the insurance industry. I've always been solving problems with risk transfer and helping people with property and casualty. And then, of course, PEOs were a very big part of what I did. I'm originally from Houston, and PEOs were very well known. So I was, I was seeing these opportunities all the way back in like 2004, very early in my career. But I started out as a captive agent. I had some business to business sales in my background, and my career kind of kicked off in Colorado in a ski town. Was a new dad at the time, and my wife and I at the time were new to this town, and I started a new career and really started my business working with business owners. So whether it was, garage policies or people that owned hotels or restaurants in this area, I really had to learn all of the different intricacies of these policies to be able to, not only speak to them, but compete. And so that's kind of where it all started for me, and ultimately did go back to Houston as we kind of grew our family. And it's hard to believe this, but for 20 years, I've been a licensed insurance agent working with not just business owners and insurance agents, but now with my role, I've been in roles with the PEO space, but now with Safeguard Global, I'm working with a whole conglomerate of different partners that all specialize in helping their clients. And so our natural fit as me heading alliances along with a few of my colleagues is we put together deals where when these PEOs or these referral partners, when they come across a client, and these clients they could have the deepest pockets, when they want to hire or make an offer to someone outside of the U.S., things get complicated.
Yeah, it's a totally, different set of rules, right? We were just kind of going how each state's different. I can only imagine that compounds as you get into different countries, and your reach at 179 countries and counting is massive. I can only imagine, what that looks like. But I feel like we're going down this path more and more. We teased a little bit about this in the first segment. With so many, businesses these days going home based or bringing on people, remotely. That's certainly what the pandemic has proven to these business owners is you don't have to have that commercial front to be successful. And I do appreciate your kudos because, Eric and I at PEO Advisors, we have contemplated going remotely, but we feel like having that commercial front is the best fit for us. We just had a guy today walk in. I insured him in 2006. Eventually he retired. Recently widowed. Now he's getting back into the fray. We're still at the same office. We're still at the same door. He walked in this afternoon like, I'm glad you're here. Good to see you. Get me going again. And so having that footprint just works for us. But, even I, at our first meeting, naively, was how does workers' comp work outside the continental U.S. And discovered that there really isn't workers' comp in these countries, but setting up the payroll properly is a must.
Yeah, so there is. So let's just kind of lay it out there for a minute. Think about this for a minute, and I'll use a real story that I think people can relate to. But if you own a company, and like for an example, a life science company, where you're looking not just in the city that you're headquartered in, but the state, and then even the whole entire country of the U.S., and you don't really see a candidate that would work for this opportunity, or you're trying to expand your marketplace to another country, what's the first thing they do? They look for talent outside of the U.S. And so, for an example, when it comes to compliance, when it comes to actually being able to have what's called global fluency, kind of knowing the lay of the land in this local country, a country that you may not be familiar with, translating your job descriptions, and it goes on and on. It's a challenge. And so going back to this life science company, they found 2 candidates, but guess where they were? Switzerland. So what's the solution? And then more importantly, if they're with a PEO, whether it's national or regional, that PEO is saying, look, do we have the ability to transfer currency? Like, what can we do about the currency? What are our options? And that's where a partnership or an alliance with Safeguard Global really comes in, because we're very client centric, and there is a significant risk transfer when you use it's a product that we have been very successful with, which we call GEO. It's the global employer outsourcing, makes a big impact.
Yeah, I think so many of the PEOs, are almost still kind of foreign to this. Here at PEO Advisors, we partner with dozens of PEOs. And like I said, over the last 20 years of being in this space, if and when somebody had to ask, can you handle out of the country? That always had to be a simple no for us. But, Safeguard has really kind of stepped up in a big way and filled a massive gap for us. It took me 20 years to find the solution.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was ever as prevalent as it has been post-pandemic.
Well, that's a great point. So think about this. I hate to use the word COVID, but I have to. When COVID came out, that launched that world of remote, I want to say 10 years into the future, right? Suddenly people are in lockdown and people are working remote that have never done it before. And companies are starting to say, well, this is kind of working in a way. Like this is, and it doesn't, and again, it's not like just a work from home. It's really about a work from anywhere and being able to pay them wherever they are. That really changed things. But you're spot on that this all elevated. You add to that the aging workforce, where you have the Great Resignation as well, where companies are saying, what do we do? Where do we find talent? And how empowering is it for whether you're a PEO or an insurance agent trying to help your client to be able to say, well, what if we open up that opportunity to the global talent pool? What if we look there? And suddenly there's a lot of options.
Suddenly. Well, it looks like we've got a call here. You're on with Everything PEO. Hello,
Hey,
hello.
buddy, how you doing?
Is that Lionel Francis?
That's me, man. How you doing?
We're good. It feels a little different in here, man.
I know, man. I had to call in. I miss you guys already, and I'm listening to the show in Warren. Impressive. It's amazing how in our business, we all about providing services and helping people out so much, and to hear you talk about the PEO and how it ties in, especially what you're doing as well. I mean, it's, this thing about payroll and outsourcing and workers' comp, and we're here to provide a service and help all these businesses, small or large. And I think it's important that we get the message out there that there's people out there who could help them out. I just had a situation today out of New York, $1.5 million, and they 1099 their employees for 15 years.
Wow.
And now they want to bring them in W-2 employees. Well, here you go.
Well,
no clue how that works.
Yeah, this brings up something, as Evan was reading through this compliance here in the U.S., I want you to know there are some countries out there that there are some significant consequences. I mean, it is like the Wild West when you get into some of these different countries. And so compliance and doing it wrong, getting it wrong, and having independent contractors where you're exposed in one way or the other could be a significant consequence to the company. And that's what I love about what I do right now. I mean, if we were talking 5 years ago, I'd say, who's hiring globally? It actually happened to me where I had someone hit me up saying, hey, would you like to learn more about hiring globally? 5 years ago, it just didn't seem like something that was a hot topic. Post 2020 with COVID, this is the new world, right? And we're seeing it day in, day out.
I say that all the time. Out of all the taxes out there, whether income tax, sales tax, property tax, they'll waive and work with you on penalties and fines on all those taxes. But payroll tax, that Social Security
Yeah.
and that Medicare, the minute it hits those coffers, it gets spent. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They need that, and there is no
Yeah.
waiving fines and penalties. So I can only imagine in some of these other countries that
Yeah.
aren't nearly. I know technically we seem flush, although we're 31 trillion and counting in the hole, but that's due to other spending. Won't go there, but I can only imagine how reliant these other countries are. So you're saying that really the penalties are even stiffer if you get caught doing 1099 out there? Is that fair, Warren?
So, well, it depends what country. That's the thing is, one of my favorite parts of this job is, in alliances, I don't have to be the product expert. I understand the principles. When I put a client or prospect on the phone with one of our global solutions advisors and we're doing a virtual, what's so fascinating is you'll find out, number one, the prospect knows where they want to hire, or they already know where they're hiring at the moment and they want to clean it up one way or the other. Well, in these discovery calls, you suddenly have this opportunity to share with the prospect, what is the local tax rate there? What benefits are included in these different countries? Because some have that. Think Canada, think some of these other countries where you just know there's like some social health insurance that's, given to them. But then there's others that aren't. And so really just having that chance to say, hey, this is where we're hiring or this is where we have people, and uncovering all of those line items that you need to be cognizant of helps these businesses in a big way.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So are you doing, I know you do a lot there. You recruit, hire, pay, manage, do analysis for these folks. How much more of it is it's almost like temp staffing in a sense, or just in recruiting only?
No, it's not. It's not temp staffing. These are companies that really are hiring people that they want to represent their organization. So think about a video game company that could have 200 employees in the U.S., but they might have 15, and they might spread out between Barcelona or China or wherever. What happens is this. Think about this for a minute. If you and I decided we were going to open up a company in China, or we wanted to expand our company there, it could take us 8 months to 2 years just to get an entity, right? Who has that? Whether you're as big as Uber or not, having deep pockets doesn't make that faster. There's a slow process. When you talk to one of our global solutions advisors, what happens is we're on the phone basically saying, hey, how about you be able to build that team or hire that employee in 2 weeks, right? So there's instant agility, and it gives them the chance to actually put an agreement together. There's all the benefits and all of that we include is like next day in the proposal. You get to see line item by line item, and it's just very transparent. It's very helpful, but more importantly, allows these organizations to make those hires immediately versus waiting 8 months or 2 years to try a market. Brings up another great point. I had a private equity company reach out to me. We do a discovery call. They are in the process of buying a company that has 12 employees in Italy. The discovery call with the global solutions advisor just turns out to be able to give you enough information for them to recognize what the liabilities will be of taking on this company. And it changes the M&A deal in a way, because if you don't know what those liabilities are, which is, it happens to be Italy has a very high tax rate. If you don't know all of that information, it's not in your formula, right? And so, no, we didn't make this prospect a client because we actually educated them in a way to protect themselves and dodge a bullet.
Yeah, it's so huge. I mean, if you're putting a bid together, in the States, you have to know what your labor burden is. You have to understand how that cost works. So when you're going down the path of hiring somebody outside the country, it almost seems like you would almost have to do this due diligence first to see if it can be affordable for you. And then haven't even thought about how to do the currency exchange and really what that looks like. So we've got about 3 minutes before break here. I know we still got Lionel on with us.
What's up, Lionel?
What's up? I was just curious. I mean, how much are you guys involved in the hiring process, and how long does that take? I'm assuming you're involved before the company sees these employees, or are they already finding these employees themselves?
So it happens a couple different ways. Sometimes we get a call. Sometimes we get a call and they're saying, and I really want to emphasize this. It could be a Fortune 500, a Fortune 200 company. These are the kind of clients that we see. And it can also be a small mom and pop. There really is no perfect client that you see that is just typical for us. So here's a perfect example. On one hand, you could have someone saying, OMG, we want to hire someone in Canada, but we don't have our technology that we use for payroll, or our PEO doesn't have the ability to do Canadian payroll. What do we do? And you could just change that to any country, Germany or wherever, but they want this CFO, right? They want that executive that they want to hire, or any employee. And so with our relationship, we're able to actually not just put a proposal together where they know the cost the very next day, but they're actually able to onboard that employee within, like I said, could be as early as 2 weeks, that hire can be done. On the flip side, they might need help with recruiting, and they just know what the salary is that they're trying to hire. Maybe they know what the role is, but they don't have a name, right? So yes, we do recruiting, and it's a pretty powerful part of our business. Oftentimes, the way it works really is we don't really charge a client unless we find the person, and so we're able to show them potential candidates, and then they can fill it. But it goes both ways. It's either they know where they want to expand to, they know there's a marketplace, but they don't want to do what we call it's called the parachute approach. And that's where you go, hey, I want to do business in Barcelona. We'll just try to sell there with no employees there. That's not going to work. And the thing with independent contractors there really is a lot of exposure. And one of the things that CFOs love when we're pitching this, think about this too. Just like with PEO, you're allowing these entrepreneurs to work on, in their business, not on their business. They're able to actually focus on what's important to them. With this option, they get to go and say, hey, HR team, we're not going to bog you down. We're going to keep it low friction, but we're making the hire.
Lionel, I feel like if we had just met Warren a few years, there's been money left on the table left and right. This can fill a huge, huge void, not only for our business owners and our entrepreneurs, but agents and in the PEO space. Plenty coming back with Warren. Thank you so much for calling in, Lionel. Have a great day, my friend.
No problem.
All right. We are back. Man, that was just so great having Lionel call in.
Yeah, he has got he's not, I've seen him on the show, he's great there, but it was kind of wonderful to have him call in. And I do think that him being here would just make it so much greater.
Yeah, he's a ball full of knowledge. The reality is Southeast is, the largest PEO in Florida, top 5 largest in the country. And, everyone is that much stronger having Southeast in their pockets. So.
I feel for you because you're missing your wingman, you had this, you've had a co-host all this time. And so this is probably a little bit of an adjustment to you.
A little bit, but I got to tell you, man, you filled in the shoes just fine. It's like we don't skip a beat around here.
Yeah.
Well, we've been throwing a lot out there, and it's funny, Warren, because we call this show Everything PEO, but it's really more like anything entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I know there's business owners in the Tampa Bay area that have been listening to this, and I'm sure their ears have perked up a little bit, and can really just identify how much this can help them. So I'd love to, at the very least, throw it out there on how they can reach you.
Okay, well, for sure. Well, it's very easy to find me on LinkedIn. My name is Warren Spiwak. I'm sure in the show notes you'll be able to see my name. Really, it's such a unique last name. I don't think there's anyone else out there named Warren Spiwak, if that's possible. Prove me wrong if I'm wrong. But yeah, you guys can reach me there anytime. And my email address at Safeguard Global is Warren Spiwak at safeguardglobal.com. And there's no period between the two names. But let's talk about PEO for a minute, because I think what's kind of a cool buildup to all of this global talk, and really where it starts to gel, is when you think about the fact that insurance agents, for example, and I'm speaking about commercial agents, when they meet a client, it always seems like there's two kinds. There's certain agents that specialize in property and casualty, meaning liability and product liability and all of those items, work comp. And then there's others that are benefit agents, right? And that's what they do. And so what I've noticed, especially when it comes to PEO, and I'm taking you back to like 2015, right? When the Affordable Care Act was coming out. The average insurance agent, no matter how big they were that was specializing in benefits, they suddenly had this disruptor where there were going to be all these new responsibilities they were going to have. They were going to have to do all of these added things to stay compliant. And guess what? The PEO industry was like with their hand up going, we've been doing this. Like, we can help you. We can remove all of that drag from your system. So the fact is these agencies, at least this is what I experienced in my world, is that, and I would literally travel the country working for one of the national PEOs, meeting insurance agents of all sizes, is that when it came to employee counts of 50 and above, there were new expenses. And then when you think of the smaller companies that might have 6 to 12 employees, you want to give your people the best, right? Your employees thrive and strive when you show them trust and you're caring for them and you're giving them the best that you can offer. And it brings immense productivity to your company. So this is where I'm going with it. In 2015, I started submitting every opportunity. Being a property and casualty guy, I only had so many shelves in my brain that I could be an expert in insurance. And I knew when it came to benefits, when it came to compliance, when it really came to the things that a PEO could do, I would much rather either A, refer it to a trusted partner that was specializing in health, or oftentimes I would send it to a PEO because they had buying power. They had people like you, and their work comp was all dialed in to a certain degree. You had better health insurance products in many cases. And in order to do my due diligence as a trusted advisor, I needed to bring trusted partners to the table. And so that was really where it started. And that's how whenever, and even my role at Safeguard Global, it comes from relationships that I had working with PEOs. And just through that network, someone reaches out to me and says, hey, this is where I'm at. And Nate, who's our VP of Alliances, was like, we want to share this solution with more companies. We want to help more partners. And that's really how I've been spending the last year and a half of my life almost.
Yeah, it's the evolvation with the agents has really come full circle. You know, over the 20 years in this space, we were going to FAIA, that's Florida Association for Insurance Agents, kind of like that Super Bowl convention for agents. And for years, they wouldn't come up to the booth. It was almost like we had the plague, you know. But now when you go to these shows, they come up in droves. There's a true understanding with PEOs now, understanding if you don't have them as a feather in your cap, you're losing right away, right? But yes, compliance, the legal liability shift. I feel like at times, almost the business owner understands this more than the insurance agent, right? 9 out of 10 comp policies that get written, the business owner still outsources their payroll anyhow. So really, when you look at the value proposition of a PEO by simply putting those two services under one roof at a discount, how is it not worth it to you? And so I think you're right. I think right at the downturn of all the rates going down, right, is when that trend of starting to embrace PEOs, whether they're losing clients to PEOs or finally, you know, it's just grown enough, you know, shows like this have gotten the education out there enough. There was a big shift right around that time. And I think this GEO model is really that next evolution to continuing to look at the employer of record shift, not as the competition, not as a second fiddle service, but as a true value add to your arsenal to continue to solve puzzles and offer solutions to your clients.
Which is spot. Yes, thank you. And something like, you know, when I started looking into this space, I started looking at who are the players, you know, taking someone like Safeguard Global, really diving into what they do and what their differentiators are. You know, it's like when you're here in the US and you're looking to figure out how to process a payroll or onboard an employee somewhere else in the world, or maybe in several different countries, you start looking at what are the options. Well, there's some people in the market that all it is technology, right? And then there's some people that all they might have is an employer of record solution. What I love about Safeguard Global, and I love the people there. I love the fact that, you know, when these global solutions advisors get onto these discovery calls, we're learning more about the client. We're consulting them. It's not like a salesy kind of vibe, but what we're doing is education. But one of the things that makes Safeguard Global, even to me, the broadest and best in the business is we have a whole line of products. So yes, we have GEO, which is that ability to hire, I want to say immediately, but close to 2 weeks, you could have a hire anywhere in the world in many cases. But then on top of that, what if you want an entity there? What if you really want to do traditional payroll? We have managed payroll options too, where we have a system that can integrate with yours if you're looking to do collaborative reporting and have this ability to do traditional payroll in whatever currency you need to do it in across the globe. That's an option. But then what about if somebody just needs tax and compliance help? We have that. It's this slew of products, and you add recruiting and these other things. What I love about it is potentially somebody could come in, be a geo client, and then in the background, we're helping them set up that entity. We're helping them get that footprint. We're helping them get the bank account. If the country that they're in requires an employee be right there at ground floor level, it's there. And my favorite part is we have real offices in several of these countries, to where when your employee wants to speak their language to someone local, they have it. And that, to me, the human factor, when you add technology and all the things that we're experiencing today in today's world, that's really what it's about. It's about relationships. And so, to me, from an employer standpoint, or even from what I'm doing in the alliances, that vision and being able to help businesses execute, expand, and more importantly, transfer the risk in a big way is very rewarding.
Yeah, the legal liability shift is every agent knows, oh, we do comp and payroll and state and federal payroll tax disbursement and the W-2s and those very top brushstrokes. But that legal liability shift, that claims management, if and when something goes catastrophic, how the PEO is liable or the GEO is liable, or to take you through those steps, even bringing attorney representation to the forefront for litigation and mediation, it's massive. Now, for these business owners that are out there and they've never gone down these paths, and there are business owners out there that have had workers' comp for 10 years and never even had a claim, and good for them. But Eric and I's niche here at PEO Advisors is really heavy blue collar, construction, long haul trades, structural, all of the above, really where the claims are most prevalent. And so these business owners, oftentimes, when we just get in there, the agent gives us that opportunity of just educating, can really see, how much it brings to the table for them.
This almost is, to me, parallel to what I was saying about health insurance. You could be a really superb insurance agent. You could be a superb PEO owner or executive leader in a PEO. But sometimes you need someone who in their lane is the very best and most strategic with whatever product or expertise they have. Just like you would maybe want to do that with health insurance if that's not your competency. Work comp is an immaculate place to have a friend, right? And things such as just knowing where those class codes should be or what they might be, or having someone who can tell your story to an underwriter to get it approved. In my 20-year career, that is something where you want to phone a friend if it's not your competency, because you're doing something wonderful for the client, but more importantly, you're doing something great for those employees that are affected if something goes wrong and it's not really written the right way.
I love that. It's like being in this model is like unlimited phone a friend.
Yeah,
it really
true.
is.
Yeah.
Well, we've got about 6-7 minutes here before the show ends. I know it goes so fast, man.
It does.
We had the president of NAPIO, Pat Cleary,
Awesome.
on the show a couple
Yes.
weeks back, and we were going through all kinds of analytics in the PEO space. And I know you've got a lot of this in your background as well. But we were talking about how literally 50% of all worksite employees that are in a PEO break down to just 3 simple states: California, Texas, and Florida. And I know that Global has this huge network in the oil and gas global network. Is that correct?
Well, so now we're talking about a different thing. You're speaking about the oil and gas global network.
Correct.
I have a podcast there. It's a sales show, believe it or not, called Pitch. But yeah, we have 80,000 people that are selling to the oil and gas community, or they are indeed oil and gas operators or companies. And so, yeah, I do have that show. And speaking of like different states and who's where and what's what, I just find that on somewhere like OGGN where you do a show, you could, it's downloaded in 165 countries. American companies do have global reach. It's very common. And having access to something like that is really great just from a marketing standpoint. But yeah, that's been a part of my background. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to assume, Texas, right? We all know what Texas is known for, right? Big oil.
Yeah.
It's got to fit well there, and you have some roots in that state.
Yeah. But two things I was going to say, because I actually think I know what you're alluding to, which is I did tell your office that I am launching a new podcast. That I think is what we're going to get into, which is it's called Global Business Builders. And as you can tell, part of what I'm doing with Safeguard Global and working in that part, plus when you consider the work that I'm doing with OGGN, which is a global network of podcasts that I have a show there, my plan is to celebrate these businesses that have a footprint beyond just the U.S. Like, I want to talk to them. What was their experience? What were their challenges? What did they find were parts of their evolution as they went from not just the U.S., but going beyond borders. And something else that I'll say too, I know we were just talking about, how to reach out to me and whatnot. Safeguard Global, if you are a PEO, we actually have a global alliance manager that just focuses on the PEOs. Chris Taylor, he's one of my colleagues. I want to send a shout out to him because he works day in, day out with PEOs and helps these partnerships along. And then also, I know I introduced you guys to Terry Cannon, who works with PEO brokers and PEO support teams, and also just all of our affiliate partners. So definitely want to point that out. My lane really, while last year was very PEO centered, hence why we met, and I too was part of NAPIO, is that this year really it's been very insurance focused for me as well as payroll. So you're seeing these payroll companies that are going out on first calls. And either two things happen when it's a technology or NGO that has a global footprint, immediately dealings stall because they don't have a way to do payroll outside of the U.S. So that's where this relationship goes, and it's really great. Or, with this partnership, they get to say yes, right? Like, yes, we can do it. And so I'm, part of my goal today is just to empower more people who are trying to help their clients to access Safeguard Global. I'm glad that we are working on our partnership. I know
Absolutely.
You guys and Terry are working together. There's just so much here, and there's plenty of people looking for advice, solutions, and the right way to go global.
Yeah, it's never ending. It's always evolving in that sense. We had Steve Ott with Payroll Funding Companies on a couple weeks back. I don't know if you're familiar with Steve, but he's literally done a similar path where he's gone around and he only provides, not only, but for the majority of his funding is only for PEO clients. It's a not a factoring company, non-PG model. And I think Safeguard, has a huge opportunity of doing the same thing. This is a big miss for PEOs out there. I promise you, on the regular, they are telling folks all the time that they don't have this solution. And it's, whether you're a PEO broker or a PEO, it's yourself, this is an easy fit. It really, really is. So for any business owner out there that are looking to bring on, staff outside the continental U.S., Warren Spiwak and Safeguard Global,
Yeah, reach
be your
out.
Huckleberry.
And the other, another thing is too, it's like when you are, whether you're a PEO or whether you're you're an entrepreneur or even an insurance agent, you just want to take care of your clients, right? Like that's what we all drive for. So when you get that phone call, when you have this opportunity to solve a major problem, which is the client wants to go global, this is where it fits in.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming in, Warren. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. And I think that's the oath that every insurance agent takes, right? We always put our best foot forward to solve the solution or the problem at hand for our clients. Next week, we've got the president of Florida Resource Management, Kelly Anderson, coming in, talking everything's fraud in the PEO and insurance space. Yeah, everyone know how this ends. Love God, appreciate your staff, be kind to your PEO, and know we're on a 167-hour break.